How's everyone doing tonight? It's an honor being up here to be able to share my personal story with you guys, and I also hope that my story resonates with everyone in here and we can continue to make more change into our community. When I was 12 years old, living at Sandpoint, someone asked me what I wanted to be when I got older. I didn't have an answer. It wasn't that I didn't have dreams, it's that no one had ever shown me what there was out there to dream about. I didn't know what college actually was. I didn't know what a major was or why one even mattered. And I also didn't know that there were classes you were supposed to take in middle school to better prepare you for classes in high school and everything after. The whole map, steps people around me just seemed to know, wasn't a map I'd ever been handed. Good evening. My name is Amanuel Woldemedhen. I'm a sophomore at the University of Washington. Double majoring in finance and entrepreneurship. I'm a first-generation college student, and I grew up right here in Seattle at Solid Ground Sandpoint Housing. Growing up, there were a ton of resources around me, tutoring centers, programs, things that looked great on paper. But as soon as I would walk in at a young age, I didn't see myself fitting into those rooms as much as I thought I would. The support wasn't shaped for someone like me. So at a young age, I had to make a tough decision. Either figure it out alone or don't figure it out at all. I chose to figure it out. I was a curious kid, and that curiosity left me asking my mother a ton of questions. Why do people go to college? Why do I have to get good grades? And how do I get a Lamborghini? Typical questions every kid asks, except I didn't have somebody on the other side who could draw the line from question to answer. So then I began answering them myself. And what I realized was simple, but it changed my entire mindset. It was that nobody was coming to save me from my situation, and nobody else could want it more than I wanted it. The day that flipped, I got competitive with school, with opportunities, with my own future. Because I believed that if the door wasn't going to open for me, I was going to find my way through that door. I began teaching myself how to navigate through school, how to think about a future, and how to even begin imagining what came after high school. A blueprint, one I had to build from scratch myself. There was no clear list of goals written by somebody who had already lived it. There was no game plan for how I was gonna fit into rooms that I've never been in. But what I noticed at a young age was what I had was instinct. And instinct for me came from one thing: the realization that if I wanted to make a difference for my family, for my community, and for the kids who have lived a similar story like mine, I'd have to be the one to go first. So that's what I want to do now. I want to be the person I needed when I was that kid at Sandpoint. I want to be able to sit across from a young person who can't quite picture what comes next, and I want to show them, not tell them, but show them what's possible. But here's what stays with me. Most of the kids I grew up with never got that far. Whether it was college, trade school, a career path, it was all one big empty void. Not because they lacked any talent, not because they lacked any intelligence, but it's because nobody opened a door wide enough for them to see what was on the other side. And when I say open a door, I mean something specific. I mean the things my peers in other parts of the city had access to without thinking twice. Tutoring that actually worked. Summer programs that put them inside of companies and college campuses before they had to choose one. Adults who read their college essays and knew what an admission officer was looking for. Goals already written down for them with the clear path to execute. A blueprint, a similar one I had to build from scratch. For me, something shifted when I found DECA, a national business and marketing club and competition for high school students. For the first time, I wasn't just getting by, I was competing, I was building, and people began to notice. I ended up placing first internationally, and alongside my teammate, SP Haran, who's in the crowd right there. In a room full of students from across the world, I was also honored with the rare 2024 Force Ward Racial Equity Award, which recognizes young leaders for encouraging other students of color to step into business and compete at the highest level. Those moments handed me something I'd been missing my entire childhood: confidence. The belief that I belonged in those rooms, that my ideas had weight, and that I could build a life and not just survive one. I had the drive, I had the passion, and I was willing to push through the walls to get where I am. But tonight, I need to be honest with everybody in this room about something. We cannot build a future on the hope that every kid will find their own way. What about the kid who hasn't found that fire yet? What about the kid who has not seen anyone in their family walk across a graduation stage? What about the kid who doesn't even know what questions to ask? As a first-generation college student, everything I do is a first. Every form, every application, every conversation with an advisor is an active road I'm building while I walk on. And that's what makes this journey so complicated, but it's also what makes it so urgent, because I don't want the next generation to start from zero the way I did. Everybody in this room understands the problems. Everybody has ideas, but ideas without execution are just noise. And here's what I want to say plainly. Solid Ground has already built the foundation. The tutoring centers work, the programs that also give young kids community during the day while their parents are working 2 jobs. Those programs are real and they matter. I know because I grew up inside of them. But the kids in those rooms grow up, and the moment they grow up, the support needs to grow with them, because that is the window where futures get decided. So this is where I think we need to capitalize on what we've already built. Mentorship for students in middle school and high school, with people who have walked the path and could sit down with them and explain it. Help with class scheduling, so a kid isn't guessing which classes will keep their options open 3 years from now. Summer programs that put them inside of opportunities and expose them to real life experiences. And real jobs for kids who are old enough. Not as a side benefit, but as strategy. Because a job at 16 builds discipline. A job at 16 puts you next to people who are different from you, who think differently than you, and who live differently than you. And that exposure is what cracks the world open. I know this works because I lived it. In high school, I was accepted into ACAP, the Accounting Career Awareness Program at the UW Foster School of Business. It's a free week-long residency on campus. You apply, you get in, and you spend a week on campus. Real firms come in, run workshops. Real professionals teach you what their day actually looks like. And after I left that week, I wasn't guessing about my future anymore. I was interested, I was hooked, and I'd seen the work up close, and I knew I could do it. That is what exposure does. 1 week changed the entire trajectory of my life. Imagine what a year would do. Imagine what it would do if it weren't one program a kid had to find on their own, but a system every marginalized community could build into the youth development work already happening on the ground. That's the kind of support that doesn't just exist on a flyer. That's the kind of support that actually shows up in a young person's life and stays. I'm standing in front of you guys tonight as proof that it's possible. I'm double majoring in finance and entrepreneurship at the Foster School of Business. I'm a part of the Lavin Entrepreneurship Program, Brotherhood Initiative, and Husky Sales Club on campus. I've also been able to build an AI startup alongside my team and place third in the Lavin pre-seed round earlier this year. I've interned at H10 Capital here in Seattle in an AI startup based in Palo Alto. And what that made me realize about myself is I am, at my core, a builder. But I didn't do any of it alone. I was blessed to have my mother who drove my goals harder than I drove myself, who wanted me to succeed before I even knew what success even looked like, and who is still to this day one of my closest friends. I also had a business teacher at Roosevelt High School who saw something in me and kept pushing me towards the next goal, and the next one, and the one after that. And I had ACAP, where the door to a real career got opened for the first time. That is what got me here. A parent who believed in me, a teacher who pushed me, and a program that exposed me to a future I couldn't have imagined on my own. And the work in front of all of us is to make sure those opportunities aren't the exception, that they aren't reserved for the kid who just happened to find them, but the norm for every kid growing up in a similar situation to mine. But I don't want to be the exception. I want to be the example of what happens when we actually invest into the youth. My plan is to bring in UW students, specifically students of color, to lead workshops and mentor the next generation. Through the campus programs I'm a part of, I want to offer the same community growth I experienced and help bridge the gap for the youth coming up behind us. If we break this cycle, the next kid doesn't have to start from zero. If we build the right support around them, mentorship that helps them name their goals while they're still young enough to be shaped by the answer, workshops that show them what careers actually look like from the inside, and a community that fosters real growth instead of just talking about it, then the 12-year-old at Sandpoint who gets asked what they want to be when they grow up won't stare back in silence. They'll have an answer. Thank you.
Keep your applause going for Amanuel Woldemedhen.